now call the committee of the whole to order.
Yeah, you want to do?
I was gonna ask, should I move?
Number 2 is review recommended 2020 budgets.
I distributed a summary sheet, and I think that'd be a good thing to start the review before we dive into it. A couple things that I made mention, so I'm just going to go right from the top. This is a budget proposal that allows for a balanced budget. It does not rely upon fund balance, which is essentially the village savings to balance. Gives a nice increase of wages to employees while maintaining adequate benefits for healthcare and other amenities. This proposal also builds in a very much needed capital improvement plan that has been all but vacated due to budget constraints in the past. The goal, and with final adjustments to revenue flow, 2019 rollovers, and maximizing levy limits, is to balance without a tax increase versus 2019. So, like I said, the long-term goal is we want to sustain our levy, and we do not want to see a tax increase for our village residents. In order to achieve that, I've come up with an action plan. We need to come in agreement on the municipal court and set an appropriate budget for the department. We need to agree on the proposed CIP work plan that would allow for additional borrowing without raising taxes to village residents. In order to do this, we need to wait for taxing information on Fox Valley Technical College, the Black Otter Lake District, and Outagamie County. We may also need to agree on raising the mill rate for the village portion of the tax rate to offset the reductions from other taxing entities. However, and I'm going to keep saying this over and over and over, as stated earlier in the summer, we will not exceed the total tax rate from 2019. It is at this point that the village's mill rate would have to potentially rise from $8.42 per thousand to as much as $8.65 per thousand. That would counter the other reductions from the other taxing entities, but it would enable us to build our capital improvement plan as is so much needed. As we get further into the calendar year, we'll be able to manipulate the budget once we have the other information. So unfortunately, we filed that last year on November 19th. That is what allows us to calculate the final mill rate that is associated with the taxing portion of the whole full meal deal that goes out. So we don't have some information yet. And then moving forward, the capital improvement plan would increase each year. It would increase in 2020 because we do have long-term debt that is being retired. But however, with what we established tonight, if proposed and agreed upon, is that levy will still remain constant. And that's something we're going to have to discuss as we get into that programming for the $100,000 borrow. Talking with the other department heads today, the energy of this review tonight really needs to go into concentrate on the Fund 100 expenditures to get village approval. And the reason I say that is because there are certain things we have to do to this budget yet. 95% of it's there. With what we needed to discuss tonight will allow us to follow the timeline on the bottom, which is from tomorrow moving into 11/11, we will do the final amendments to build a summary for publication. We have to get that to Jane's hands by Monday so she can send it off. The reason we need it Monday is they will publish it on the 13th, correct? That has to have a 15-day notice in order for us to approve it and have a final budget presented to all of you on December 5th. We have to have 15 days of publication. In that publication notice, on the bottom, it does give a caveat. We are allowed to amend. So we are legal. We might not be putting out all the information in that publication summary, but it does give us a caveat that we can amend the budget, okay? So on this coming Thursday at the village board meeting, any actions that we take tonight out of the committee of the whole or recommendations moving forward, whether it be for the budget or for the municipal court department, we'd have to have a motion, and that's already built into our agenda for Thursday of this week. Again, like I said, on 11/11, Jane will email the budget summary for publication, so it will be legal. And then the next caveat would be to get the financing if we agree to do the $100,000 finance, which is all set up. It's just a matter of securing the note and doing the promissory requirements, and then asking for final approval of the budget on 12/5/19, which we'd be able to tell you then with the levy limit information, exactly what, to the penny, what our taxpayers would expect to see on their tax bills going into next year. Other than that, I just wanted to make a comment, because we do not have a part of the committee of the whole, we do not have it built into this this agenda. If we get into discussions on wage and benefit, we technically should go into closed session. We don't have it, so I'm just gonna be cautiously I'm just gonna say, watch what you're saying about wage and benefit, because we could be falling in issues with how we talk tonight. So it should, anything that has to do with employment or compensation, we should really do it in closed session. So we just gotta be careful how we address.
Are we able to ask, like, percentage rate increases and the things that are already in what you provided to us, not in the wage and benefit report, but in the.
Correct.
Like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
those types of questions.
Absolutely.
Generic,
Yeah,
okay.
and that'll all fall in Fund 100.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of what we have in here, this book, is summary mode. Again, we can go through tabs, and I think we could go through the entire book. We are here to answer questions from you. However, when it really comes down to it, the biggest tabs that we need to address are the expenditure detail. So you have 4 pages towards the end of the book. If you find your blue tabs, anything that has a blue tab on it, 4 pages prior to that is basically your summary. That'll summarize every department, starting with general government, leading into public safety. And then on the back side of that is 14 pages of the line items and how it's expended. So Julie, that's where you're gonna get the majority of your language on what.
Okay. I have pink, I have green, I'm looking for blue.
I'm sorry, blue stripes, Julie, in the,
Oh, blue
Okay.
stripes,
Yep.
okay,
blue highlighted stripes in the workbook.
okay.
Okay? Yeah, and again, I'm gonna kind of let you lead. If you have questions, I don't necessarily know if we want to go through this as a line item, if we want to go line for line.
It'd take too much time.
It would,
We used to do that. We'd be sitting here for 3-4 hours.
so what we did as department heads is we summarized, we went through and we found ideas or areas that we thought might bring up an eyebrow, areas that we thought might be raised question. So we could do it that way if you want to, because like I said, every one of them is total. You know, essentially the way you look at general government on the first tab is it's a 2% reduction in general government. However, we have a substantial decrease in a healthcare provide and then an increase in a healthcare waiver. So it's deceiving. Again, that would give more support of going through line items, but at what discretion do we want to cover it? You know what I'm saying? Essentially, where I'm at with this is we are $8,890 off of balance in this budget right now without fund balance.
I have 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
The first is, I'm not clear on the 100,000.
Okay.
Why we borrow it, what the implications. I know that there's some sort of governmental reason for why we're doing this, but
Correct.
it hasn't been explained to me in a way that I understand yet. So
Okay.
I would like to understand that. And the other question that I have is, what happens if we do have a question of that regards wage, that when we can't go into closed session? So how do we address that?
I think you can ask about blanket wages, you know.
Yep. I mean, I can tell you that, and this question came up earlier, what we can't do is we can't pinpoint a specific employee or call them out. We can go by department. Primarily, what has happened is at the discretion of all department heads in the administration, it was a 1 to 3% increase across the board. 1%, or 2 being the general rule of thumb, 2%
Okay.
increase. 1% if you were negative, if we felt you had issues that might have deterred from your performance. 3% if you went above or beyond in your role. Some people, there were, I believe in 2 instances, and unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, we can't control the library, so they set their own agenda through their finance. So some of their, I believe 2 of their employees had upticks bigger than the 3%. That was approved by their board. That we don't have a say in that. And then we had 2 other employees that saw as either on a hiring commitment or a request that we would put to a higher level than 3%. basically on merit.
Getting a negative head shake over here.
The max that the library is proposing in December is 3%.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's for line staff? Not you, but.
Yeah.
That's the,
No,
that's the type of
for-
thing,
Yeah.
how, you know, how do I know what I can
That
ask?
that is
So
on
when
the
they
wage
look at
benefit
this-
report.
But yeah, but my question is like, how do I know what I can ask if we don't have, if we have a blanket statement that we can't ask about?
I don't know, because we've never done that in a budget, you know, I don't know the answer
See,
to that.
that,
Okay.
The budget can be,
I mean,
anything in this budget, not on the other thing that was emailed.
okay,
Don't talk about the other, yeah,
I got,
that's,
okay, that's an answer I can understand as to what,
now, when you talk wages, I just wanna pipe in here, but the police union, they already have a set amount they're getting, so when you're talking about wages and rate, you're mostly talking about public works, so don't
well,
forget
no,
that.
I understand, I'm just trying to understand the guidelines for what I can ask questions
Correct.
about.
Correct.
So, because I don't wanna ask or make the wrong statement that we're not, and say something we're not supposed to be talking about.
No,
Correct.
you still
Okay,
control the
and
purse string, so you should have some right to ask.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying, we're kinda strong here for
I
that,
think,
okay,
yeah, you're fine.
okay, and then the 100,000?
If you so choose, I can explain that in depth right now, if we want to tackle that one right away.
Maybe from 40,000 foot level
Okay.
would be nice, because I don't
so-
understand it at all. And that's like.
I won't blame anybody on this, but there's an associated tax levy. So, TID two had associated debt that was left on the books. I'm not sure why TID two was closed, but TID two got closed early. But we still had debt that was accountable to TID two left on the books that we had to pay for.
Okay,
So at what point, we had to call Ehlers and say, how do we account for this properly? At the recommendation of Ehlers, we paid down, the village paid down $51,000 in debt. Great for the village because we're able to do it, but bad for the village because that $51,000 was to be amortized in 2020 on a monthly basis.
okay.
That would be then termed long-term debt. So by taking that $51,000 of payments out of, our levy limit came down. So we do not have the right to tax for that, although we already had it built into our debt structure. So that lowers the levy limit. Good for citizen A and B and Joe, okay? However, what it does is it takes money, usable money out of our budget. It's a wash because we would have taken it in and we would have paid it out. So what's the advantage to the village? At that point, the people are already expecting to have that levy, that $51,000. So you're just sitting right here. You take it out, it lowers our levy limit, and everybody's happy. However, we still don't have the capital improvements that we need. We're in a position this year, because we've already heard indication from the village, or from the school district, and they published it. They have announced they are, so their information is in early, because the school district's report earlier. They have already announced a 15-cent tax reduction to the village of Hortonville residents. So that equation allows us then to think about how we can possibly build our $100,000 capital improvement budget. We can then go to a bank, borrow $100,000. It has to become long-term debt. So it has to be amortized for at least 1 year and 1 day. That is taxable. We can put it on the levy, we can tax for it, and at that point, we can put it back onto the levy. So at this point, we're proposing to add 100,000. So where we were at, the levy was right here. We took it down 51. Now we're asking to go back up 100. So we're adding $49,000. So that's the offset in cents per thousand that we have to accommodate. Right now, it's looking at about 24 to 30 cents is what it's gonna raise it per thousand. The school district has brought it down already 15. We're hoping that Bold, Fox Valley Technical College, and especially the county will bring it down another 15 cents, so we go flat. Essentially, what I'm telling you as a village board, we would not raise taxes to the village residents. We are gonna adjust that. If we take $80,000, or if we have to take $77,000, in a perfect world, we're gonna try to get $100,000 because that's the plan that we built out, the capital program. Then our budget levy is, our mill rate to our village residents stays flat. And what I'm proposing then in the next 5 years is that we don't move it. We keep it right here. It'll only go down. But what it also allows us to do is next year, We drop off the other side of the 2016 A bond, and we have another $67,500 that we're paying in 2020. So then we can bud, whatever we get for our capital plan this year, we can add that additional $67,500. We can aggressively build our capital plan, restore our streets, all of our projects, parks, recreation, however we deem usable, which Carl has built out in his 5-year plan. However, we need to spend that money, we can do it to repair roads.
I don't think I shared with him, did I?
No, no.
That's a plan based on projected increases in capital
Correct.
expenditures.
Okay.
And what it does, it addresses, like I said, the parks.
Yeah.
What people want to see for their tax money, if we're going to hold taxes the same, that's the bottom line, that's what Dave's getting at. Is taxes for this year will be the same as taxes for next year. You know, what the other people want down, we're going to go up slightly, so it'll still be the same. But we want to make improvements. People pay taxes, they like to see what they're paying taxes for, you know, not bumpy roads or the same old stuff in the parks. You know, granted, next year would be a little heavy on vehicles with police and public works, but, you know, we got overlays on 3 streets, we got Mill Street Bridge repair. But 2021 is where we really get into the parks, you know, pavilions, bleachers, stuff like that, that people want to see, that we'll be able to pay for without raising taxes.
Okay.
And that's the bottom line.
One question I can think of, so the school district went down this year.
Correct.
Are we expecting that the school district generally, I mean, there's no crystal ball here. We can't
Correct.
look in a crystal ball.
Correct.
But we're assuming at this point that the school district will also stay the same?
According to Todd in the library meeting, they're also expecting a generous decrease next year,
Okay.
as are we, because we are coming off of a year, we're gonna more than double our net new construction from last year to this year. So we only saw 67,000 of net new construction dollars. The revenue generated for our levy go at 67,000. I'm expecting that to be north of 100,000
I
next year.
just, again, just get a little nervous just because they're a growing district.
Correct.
And I know that some of the schools are reaching capacity. So if, again.
Well, if they
crystal
raise
ball.
taxes, they raise taxes. I don't think there's much, we shouldn't, I know what you're getting at, but
Everyone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they get their tax bill, and
Yeah.
because it's the county and the village on there.
if they build a
assume
new
it's the
high school,
village.
then everybody's going to be expecting their taxes to go up.
Yeah,
We can only, unfortunately, Julie, we can only control the village side of it.
yeah.
What we're saying is, we are gonna take advantage, or I'm proposing we take advantage of this reduction from everybody else this year to put us where we need to be so we can establish our capital program, so we can repair our end.
But you have unknowns.
A
You don't
few.
know what Bold is going to do, you don't know if
Correct.
Fox Valley Tech,
Correct,
County,
correct.
you're anticipating them reducing.
And that's where we can take it from $100,000, if we need to, back down to the appropriate level, to make sure, and that's the promise I make, and that's something that I will propose, that we will not raise the overall tax bill
The county 0.5% tax might help too,
next year.
next year. I
Correct,
think that goes into effect in May,
In January.
January.
January 1?
correct. So we can't count on that this year. So we're kind of in a holding pattern. We have a lot of good ideas, but we can't do it yet because there's too many unknowns. But unfortunately, we need to ask permission to do it.
To set it up.
To set it up, and you would have to wait until final approval December 5th. I can't give you that levy limit number yet. I guess I'm asking for permission without knowing all the facts. In theory, it's gonna work great.
So I'm hearing 2 things. Make sure I'm just going to repeat them back, and it's going to be redundant. But the one is that we're seeing and expecting to see reductions, and we're increasing to keep the overall taxes the same.
Correct.
Okay. And then the other one is that there is some calculation somewhere that determines how much we as the village can tax, and that's based on some formula somewhere. So when we paid down the 51,000, now we can, because of that formula, we would actually have to reduce our tax. So we're going to borrow the money to compensate for that.
Correct.
Back in, just like we had done it on a payment plan.
Correct.
And that will feed into the calculation, so the taxes will stay, the tax levy or mill rate or whatever you call it, will stay the same for the residents.
With us doing our homework right now, we are sitting 30 cents over what we were last year.
Okay.
So our mill rate, I believe, was $8.40 42 cents last year, so we're sitting at $8.72 right now. With a few adjustments yet that we've gotta make in our budget, which unfortunately some of it falls on departments, we can stabilize, we can balance, then that also brings it down, that percentage. We have a few revenues that we could potentially add in yet, that we haven't added yet because they're unknown. That'll bring our revenue source up, which lessens the levy amount. And then we can secure, we don't know our roll yet either. Roll always plays into it. I don't like using roll, but roll factors into what you, less revenue. The more roll you have from 2019 into 2020, we have a guesstimate on that right now. But another week, 2 adds a lot of information to what we can roll into the new year. That also brings down what we have to levy for versus what we don't need to levy for. That brings that cents per thousand ratio down. So all the things are working in our benefit right now versus working against us right now. So it's unknown, but what I'm proposing is that you allow us to take this tool to build our capital plan in the understanding that we will not raise taxes. If we only can borrow $76,000, we're gonna borrow $76,000. If we can only borrow $50,000, we're only gonna borrow $50,000. The goal, end all be all, is once everybody, or all the other taxable entities come in, that we set our rate according. So at worst case scenario, everybody breaks even from last year. So the mill rate that goes out to on the tax bill, when you add in Bold, Fox Valley Tech, the school district and village, is identical to what it is. You don't see a reduction, you don't see an addition.
Is the term on this note more than 366 days?
It's structured for it's a 1 year and 1 day. It's set up.
Right.
We would have to pay.
So do we have to pay interim interest, or is interest at the end?
3.25%. We can prepay it in full.
They wanted like 22,000.
They wanted 20,000 halfway through the year. We can pay more to offset the interest if we could take it out of savings. Or we can pay, worst case scenario, we've already built that $3,250 into the budget as an expenditure.
So why 20,000?
That's just a number.
Yeah, that's just a number.
That's just a number. We could pay $2. I mean, we don't have to pay
Okay.
anything. They didn't require a payment at all. I think we just said.
But it
20,
comes
yeah.
due on the day 366 in full?
You can,
Okay.
and there's no penalty for early prepayment.
Right, okay.
You actually have to prepay it in your taxing year. So we would have to have it paid in 2019.
So it'd be a
No,
savings.
2020.
I'm sorry, 2020, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's gonna
Because-
cost us $32.50, I'm sorry, Peter, I'm just.
Go ahead.
In my head here, I'm thinking it's gonna cost us, so we're budgeting an extra $32.50 in our budget
Correct,
to pay the interest on that.
correct.
But there's no prepayment, so can we bring the balance down to $5 for the
If you want to
majority of the
take,
year?
if you want to take 100,000 out of your savings, absolutely,
Just save the $32.50.
correct.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
you could-
just.
You could essentially take the loan out and then, correct,
Mhm.
correct. I mean, that's a funding tool if you really wanted to do that.
You
I don't
know-
know if you would ever get a loan from that bank again.
Yeah, probably not.
No, but I'm just trying to think, I mean, it just seems like if we're gonna budget for the $32.50, if we could find a creative way to maybe reduce that.
Absolutely, and that's something I can discuss with him. Even if we get half of it back, I mean, that'd be worth it. However, I look at it as essentially we're getting a $100,000 capital program for $3,250 if we borrow it. You know, it's on our taxpayers, so I gotta look at it that way as well. But it's a way that we establish our plan. We need to establish our capital improvement plan.
3250 is cheap money.
It is cheap money, but it's still something that we're.
You know, for what they're setting up here and what we're trying to do. You know, we don't need to discuss payback right now. I
Correct.
mean, we could do that anytime during the year. We can make a decision 6 months in to pay it if we have the fees,
If
or
you
have the
skip-
funds.
If you skip to your third page starting from the front, on the initial summary, that the budget administrator summary. So I kind of gave a timeline here. It says in 2020, we potentially could spend 100,000. In 2021, we grabbed that additional 67,500. So if you're looking at this, you could potentially have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive years of a capital budget in excess of $167,000. That is astronomical for this village. The number that you need to look at is just above that. Carl's Paisley report, which is the pavement surface evaluation and rating for the village, has the village right now negative $383,000 in what repairs are needed to upkeep their roads in the village. So Carl built out the capital plan. I'm gonna say, what, 50% of that money is gonna be designated to road repair?
Yeah, indirectly or directly. The reason the first year is heavy on pickup trucks is because we've got a plan for, you don't mind me.
Absolutely.
We've got a plan for switching the police department over to police trucks and then cycling them out into public works. But the first one for public works would be 5 years out. So that's, we're driving trucks from the 90s down there. We got 2 of them from the 90s, and they're getting harder to keep on the road and safe. So I wanted to buy another plow truck, and as kind of a stopgap before we start seeing some cycling out. Now, there may be a time where I got to go out and buy a designated specific truck for the utility, but in general, just general purpose trucks, we're going to start taking used ones from the police department. I'm also, one of the things I want to do is get a second plow truck is on storms when we have 1 to 3 inches of snow. Instead of paying the county $3,000 to come in here, I'll give my guys $300 in overtime and have them go out and just make 2 passes down the road with our trucks. They could probably use the money, and we could probably, I'd rather save $2,600 snowfall. We're already over budget for snow this year, and we haven't really had county plows out. So I think the truck, if we follow this capital plan like we're looking at, it's gonna add up to a lot of positives. And I'm not gonna pay for the truck by going out and doing a few storms, but that's some of the things that it can pay for itself over time with. And again, it's stopgap. I'm sorry, go on.
Another point that I was gonna get at, so by 2024, if we've expended money for 5 consecutive years to rebuild our capital, at any point, we can turn the capital program off. If we ever get to the point where we don't wanna do the borrowing for it anymore, we can turn it off. Then you see an immediate reduction in your mill rate to the tune of essentially 50 cents per thousand. It's just that we've established it, we've built it, we can keep building it. And the perfect time to probably do that would be in 2024, where we could say, hey, in 2024, we don't need to do this capital program, but we have a $229,000 balloon payment due for the fire department. We could pay it off, and that would save us another additional $112,000 in interest at that point. So it's just smart economics at that point that we make that decision. But that, again, that's 5 years down the road. That's something we look at in the future. If we elected to keep that payment, we could take that money out of savings and pay it off. And that could potentially put our capital program up to $200,000 by 2025. Thus, with the same tax rate moving forward, our tax rate from now on will only go down, because there is no anticipated borrowing in the next 5 years. So we're going to increase our revenues with net new construction, and we're going to continue to drive our mill rate down with that. We're going to, if you allow us to do this proposal we're doing this year, the only time our increase would go in is if we did a revenue bond, which is essentially like a TID note. If we do a project in a TID, we secure it with the revenues that come out of the tax dollars. So it would not affect the general tax levy. It just sits right here. We'll let all of our other people take us down with net. So if we're here right now with this proposal, every time we see net new construction increases, the levy goes down. Every time the school district brings in a reduction, the levy goes down. If county comes with a sales percent, the levy goes down. If Bold reduces, it goes down. If Fox Valley Technical College reduces, it goes down. So we're sitting right here, and we're not going to go any higher projected for the next 5 years at least, unless we have a referendum or something beyond our control.
That's a bold statement. There's too many unknowns. I mean, at the village level, yeah, you're maintaining it,
Correct.
but there's no control over county.
Well, we can't control
We
them
can't
anyway.
control them
Well,
anyway.
I know that, but you're making a bold statement
Yeah.
here.
Well, the
You're
village
saying that
taxes,
for the next 5 years, it's gonna be level. I say,
the village taxes.
On
will
our
be-
end, it'll be level.
yes,
On our
at the
end.
village
Let
level.
me rephrase that, yes.
Okay,
That's
please
what we-
rephrase that.
Yeah,
We're on camera.
correct. So, any more clarification? I don't know what else I can answer on that end. The other thing we have to answer is that if we did not eliminate that debt, 50% of what I'm asking for in this proposal was already there. So it would have already been there. I'm just asking to exceed it. And under the circumstances, we had, the school district is giving us this opportunity to reduce it right away. So, and we still balance out. And I don't wanna raise taxes for anybody. That's kind of the premise I always take.
So for the next 5 years, when I get my tax bill, I can look at the village of Hortonville, and it's been stable for 5 years. County's gone up, county's gone down. School district has gone up, down. So what you're saying to the taxpayer is, for the next 5 years, when they get their tax bills, it will always be the same mill rate
From the village.
from the village. That's correct.
From the village.
Just so it's clarified.
From the village, and if we get to that number, 2024, when our next balloon payment is due, a callable rate, if we get to that and we decide as a group that we want to reduce, and like I said, if we don't like what it's doing, we can turn this off at any time and the mill rate goes down, because it's just borrowing you take out of the equation. But this would be a loan that we would have to take every year to maximize your levy, and it changes every year with what you. It's a calculation, so Jane would be able to tell me what we expended, and that 67,500 comes from the payments times 12 for the next year. Then there's 2 payments in January and February of 21. You subtract what you had in 20 versus the 2 payments in 21, that's where you get that 67,500. So it's additional money that we would be paying, that we're taking off the books, that we add to our levy to stabilize it. And any time debt comes off, you could add it on. So as long-term debt goes away, you just continue to add it on. Your levy stabilizing. City of Delafield does this to the tune of $1 million every year. They borrow $1 million, they pay $1 million. And they have $1 million capital program every year, because they're at that point in their game. We're not there. And we don't have their income levels.
So what we're talking about here is a stable mill rate,
Correct.
not a stable tax rate.
Correct. The village's mill
Because
rate,
if we're reassessed, and you're reassessed another $20,000,
correct.
the mill rate stays the same at 8.42,
8.42.
right?
That's last year. Now I'm proposing uptaking it this
So
year.
for every 1,000 of increase in your assessment, you'll pay $8.42. So your tax will go up, your tax bill will go up, but your mill rate will stay the same.
This also allows us to, in 2021, when we have our reassessment, so payable in 2022, we could adjust accordingly.
Right.
So we could adjust it. We could build that into this program. We could downsize our
Mill rate.
mill rate to accommodate the reassessment. So it gives us options moving forward. If we see a dramatic uptick, then we can downsize it to accommodate. So, because we're gonna hear about it, the reassessment. Absolutely.
People are gonna hear that
Yep.
tax rates went down for the school district. And then they're gonna say, well, I'm thinking my taxes are going down, and they get their tax bill and it's the same.
Correct.
So, we've gotta be able to take that hit too.
Yeah.
Because that's 15% decrease for the school district, that's huge.
We get,
Right.
yeah, just tell them we
But
got.
so your
roads
tax
fixed,
bill
we got
may go
parts to
down.
fix.
Well, it's not a
What you
15,
owe.
it's not a
Not
15%.
No, it
No.
won't out 15%, no,
No,
we're
not 15%,
we're
15
then.
cents.
15 cents.
15
Not
cents.
15%.
Oh,
On
I
a
thought,
$100,000 home,
I
Julie,
thought
on a $100,000 home, that's
No.
$15.
15
Right.
cents, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, all right,
15 cents per thousand.
per thousand,
Yeah.
okay.
From the school
It's
district.
from the school
Yeah.
district,
Right.
right? That is information that is open to the public.
Absolutely.
And if somebody hears that, they're gonna assume that their taxes are going down.
Correct.
But what we're gonna do is absorb that decrease to make it the same as what they had last year.
Proposing it, yes.
Okay.
This is no different than a utility tax, or a wheel tax, or a supplemental tax. Essentially, what we're doing is it's cleaner. It's a levied tax that we use to establish a capital program that people will see leaps and bounds improvements to the village. That's where we essentially are going with it. Because we haven't done it. Carl had $10,000 in capital projects last year on the line budget. And the roads show, and then we're forced to
Go into debt.
go into debt, or we take it out of savings to fix roads, and that's unfortunately, so it's,
We saved, I'm gonna just point this out, with the 2 projects this year, we saved $326,000 in interest and other fees by letting Dave work his magic. between Grandview and, Brookwood, by paying it ourselves, so. Not that we wanna take that into account, but we kinda do have a plan, and our plan is improving the village, so. I know where you're coming at, Judah, but we have an opportunity to fix up the parks, to fix up the streets, you know.
No, I'm not complaining, I'm just saying that if, as a taxpayer or as someone in this community.
And that's why
gonna
you're on the
hear.
board. You have to answer those questions. Somebody asks
Mhm.
you a question, that's why you're on there.
Yep.
Just tell them the way it is. I mean, you don't have to sugarcoat it. Just tell them we're gonna hold the tax bill the same. You know, school went down a little bit, we went up a little bit. That's how it is.
Okay.
We've been towing the line so everybody else could go up, and we have nothing to show for it.
True.
It's our turn as a village.
Any other questions on that matter?
I'm a little, you know, I couldn't make the last meeting that we had concerning some of the other issues. But I'm a little concerned about the lack of transparency on some of the wages and benefits and salaries. I'm a little bit, I don't want to say nervous, but I'd like to see more documentation. So if it means having a closed session to discuss it, because I do have a couple of questions which you can't answer here, then maybe we should call. Maybe we should have one. I mean, does anybody else have
I'd
concerns?
like to see that.
I'd like
What?
to see,
I would like to see that.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'd like to understand some of that,
yeah, I mean,
you know.
you know, we're all about transparency.
Absolutely.
And I just don't want to come away from this meeting feeling like things have been shoved down our throat, because that has happened in the past. A lack of transparency, kind of deals made behind closed doors, accusations of such.
Not from Public Works, right?
No, I'm not picking on any department.
No.
I'm not picking on any one person.
Can we do it sooner than later?
Yes, how about tomorrow? How about tomorrow evening?
We have court in here tomorrow evening.
You what?
We need a
There's
board.
court in here tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock.
We would need to post it 24 hours ahead.
It's too-
We do? 24 hours ahead?
Can we add it to
just
the
have to
agenda,
do
can we add it to
Thursday.
the agenda for village board?
Yeah.
Because
We could amend
technically,
it, there's still time.
we could add it to the agenda for village board for
Let's
Thursday
do it.
night, because technically it is discussing the employment and compensation of an employee.
Well, we could move the public facilities meeting off from 5:30 too.
I can't make the public facilities or public safety because I was busy and.
No, there's a meeting coming up.
On Thursday before, and I wasn't asked if I was available, so
Oh.
I'm not available and I want to be part of that discussion. I wasn't
What,
part of
public
last,
facilities?
I can't make public facilities or public safety. I have.
Oh, you have public safety that night too?
Hmm,
Oh,
yeah,
can we move them both so she can be involved? Can we
So
move
you're
both of
saying
those to another, maybe to
cancel?
next week?
Cancel them.
What?
You're saying cancel.
Yeah, cancel.
if we move them to next week, that would be huge.
Yeah.
That would be
Like
great.
next week, Wednesday or Thursday? Thursday because there's no board meeting. Can we do that?
We have training at
We have that training, that
Mhm.
ICS training.
On the 14th.
Oh,
But the
It could
13th,
be early, it could be,
Earlier, yeah.
I think that starts at 6:30, doesn't
We
it?
should just have a closed session at the end of the meeting.
do we have anything on the agenda though that is detrimental on,
prior to,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, there's Tuesday, there's Wednesday. I mean, the best time to come up with a meeting time is when everyone can look at their schedules and decide whether or not.
But is this gonna affect
The
your
agenda
line
for-
here that you wanna approve?
We're looking to approve an action for tonight on the village agenda on Thursday night.
Yeah, so if you have
We would have to
questions
have
that
it-
are gonna affect the budget,
Yes, we would have to have it,
this before.
that agenda, we have to
We
adjust
have
the
to have
agenda
it
and have that.
before.
We
That's
could have the
fine.
closed session prior to that.
What?
Couldn't we have the closed session
Prior to the village board meeting.
or even
In the beginning of village
in the
board.
beginning and board, village
Or
board
if you
meeting.
move it instead of the end, you can have it in the beginning.
Will you be here?
Mhm.
Okay.
We can talk
I
about
just
the
can't make it.
salaries, those are in here, but the benefits aren't. We can't talk about
You
benefits.
can't talk about individual benefits.
That's,
We
I
can talk
know,
about-
Okay.
oh,
I am aware of that.
Okay.
Gotcha.
That's why I'm asking for a closed session.
Gotcha.
So we wanna amend the agenda for Thursday with the closed session?
And then make sure that that is the first line item, because we have to have it approved.
Okay,
We have, basically, then we would take the wage and benefit report off of the 19th of December, and we would end up having to approve it tomorrow, because everything that's in that approval tomorrow would be then built into the budget that we submit for the final budget,
not tomorrow, Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday. Oh, we'll talk about it.
That's why we should have a closed session prior to the board meeting.
Okay.
So we do a closed session at 6 to 6:30?
The board meeting's at
Board
6.
meeting's at
Yeah, but,
We can push the board
Yeah,
meeting
you can-
back.
yeah,
Okay,
and push the board meeting back to 6:30. So we start at 5 with one meeting, go to 5:30 with another meeting at 6, and then the board meeting at 6:30.
I can be here at 6, I just can't be here at 5 or 5:30.
Perfect.
That's assuming you can get everything aired in a half an hour. And then
I
have
think
enough,
we, I
and
think
then have
we
enough to
can.
be able to make them,
Yeah.
make it to a vote.
We can always
We're
start a
just-
board
we're gonna
meeting a
amend-
few
we're
minutes
gonna
late,
amend the
there's no
village
rule
board
against
meeting.
that, we
It's
just
not a
can't
committee of
start
the
it
whole, it's a
early.
village board meeting. So we'll amend the village board meeting to have a closed session to start the meeting.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's part
So
of the board
technically
meeting.
only one
Right.
meeting, correct.
Yeah,
Thank you, Peter.
Right.
Yeah.
that would make that.
Oh, that
Other
makes
committee
sense.
meetings are still on.
Wait a
Public
minute, hold on,
facilities and-
hold on.
No.
The public facilities meeting has one issue. We should be able to resolve that in 15 minutes. So from 5:30 to 5:45 is public facilities, and then closed.
We already posted them for 5 to 5:30, 5:30 to 6.
Oh, you already posted
Yeah,
them?
they're
Right.
posted in,
Fine, leave it that way then.
As long as you've got a quorum, I can miss public safety and public facilities, as long as you've got a quorum.
Yeah.
I'm not available even by phone. So,
That's fine.
okay.
Which we may not if Shauna's not here.
If Shauna's not here, you may not, I mean,
And it's very possible Shauna may not be here.
Well, then we'll have to,
it's a working meeting.
Public facilities,
You may have to
Can be
That
cancel
doesn't have to
and
be
do
done
it
now.
next
It's
week.
not something that's that immediate.
we want to get it done before the end of the year, but it's not.
Yeah,
something
you're
There's
right.
nothing
So,
urgent on either
you wanna
one.
Do
cancel
you
it?
wanna maybe move
I
them,
just
just
can't-
to
I
be on the
can't-
safe side?
We should
Maybe.
move them, yes.
all right. All right. So let's cancel, this is just a recommendation. Let's cancel the public facilities meeting at 5:30 and go ahead with the closed session at 6 PM, or 5:30, I'm sorry.
No, I
No.
can't be here
No,
till
you
6.
can't do that.
6 o'clock, it's got to be.
Gotta be here at 6. I wanna be part of that because
plus
I've
it's
got a
also
lot
a
of
village
heat.
board
It
meeting
can
that has
just
a
be the
mandated start
beginning
time
of
of
the
6
village
o'clock.
board
Yeah, you're right,
meeting.
you
We've
can't
done
go
that
earlier.
before.
Okay, leave public facilities on.
And then,
What?
and then public safety, do we have enough
Public
for?
safety's at, from 5:30 to 6.
We aren't gonna have
5:30 to
enough
6.
for public
We won't have a
safety
quorum
either.
for either.
No, we will not have a quorum for either.
Are you sure of that?
Let's, if
More
Shauna
than
doesn't
likely,
show up.
Shauna said she would not be here.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Why don't you
Shauna
push them
said
both
she
off
would
till
not
next
be
week?
here.
Let's just
And
do
I
them on the
believe she's
17th.
on both of them.
I can't put it back on.
I think we should just do them on the
Isn't she?
17th. Let's propose it on the 17th. Push the public facility and public safety to the 17th.
You know what?
Zip.
Zip.
Wednesday?
Yeah, there's nothing urgent on
Zip.
either one.
No,
Let
Is there?
this
17th
gentleman
is
set the
Sunday.
meetings.
I don't think I'm gonna be.
Go.
We should, at the next village board meeting, which is the 7th, so the 21st,
So 21st for public safety
take them off of the 5th and put them to the 21st.
and public facilities.
I'm sorry, what's the Thursday that week? Now I'm-
21st.
The
21st.
7th
21st.
and the 21st.
Correct. Okay, so we
So-
should just push them off 2 weeks. Put them in front of the next village board meeting, which is the
Same
20th.
times, 5 and
Jane's gonna
5:30, I'm
recommend,
assuming.
because
I'm not gonna be at
the
the,
agenda's.
not gonna be at that meeting.
on there.
Yeah.
I'll be gone
We're
for
not
that
another
meeting.
meeting.
It's all right.
Closed
So
session.
that's why I left.
Will you
I
be in
left
your
that-
tree
I
stand?
posted that one out.
That one has nothing to
Like
do.
months ago.
that one
Will
has
you be in
nothing
your
to
tree
do
stand
with
and
the budget.
available
Okay.
by phone?
No, I have no service.
That, the 21st, that meeting has nothing to do with the budget either.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's
so,
an in-betweener, so it's gonna be a housekeeping meeting. So it'd be 5 and 5:30, meetings, public safety, public facilities, 6
Okay.
o'clock, village board.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I'm on
public
both of those
safety
committees,
first.
and I won't be here.
Nathan?
Which
Was
one
the
is
public
Thursday?
We'll get your
Or is
input
it on the
ahead of time.
facilities?
Which one
What's
is
that?
first?
You won't be here for the 21st.
Who's on first?
No.
What's on second?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember
Which
won't be
one's
here.
first?
I think it is
Public-
public
Is there
facilities.
anything
Set by
urgent on these
No.
that we really need to
Well,
meet?
Public facilities is,
Is,
nothing important.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And the public safety, there is one.
We can find a different time for the public safety.
Yeah.
We'll send out a message.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll
that
do that
one's
next Thursday or
important.
something.
You know, even next
can-
week sometime.
Yeah,
We'll just cancel this one.
I'll work with David, we'll find out a different time for public
Because
safety.
next week sometime for public
Yeah.
safety would be nice.
Yeah.
I could like meet, and I haven't possible another agenda item,
I'll-
so
Cancel the seventh.
I'll talk to you about it.
Yep, we'll reschedule a public safety.
So what do we
I
set
don't
for
know how to
Thursday?
turn
night?
it back on.
Yeah, we'll
6
probably
o'clock.
do it
The
next
only
week.
thing is
6
that's
o'clock.
on
Right,
the,
at 6 PM, it's not village
that's
board meeting.
on this
It's
agenda.
closed session.
What's
To
that?
pass
But it has
that.
to come inside of the
What's
village
that?
board. Because
On
we
what
want
agenda?
the
Being
board to
discussed
have a
on
closed
public
session
safety.
period.
And that's just gonna take
It won't be right at the
Matter
start.
of-
It'll be 10 minutes.
the information from Kashana, so it's just a matter of you guys reading it and approving it. So that one's not gonna take too long.
You may not have a quorum this week
Yeah.
is what
Yeah,
I'm
we're not
worried
gonna have a
about.
quorum. Julie won't be
Right.
here, Shauna won't be here,
Great, and you won't be here on the
I
21st.
won't be here on the 21st.
So sometime between the
You
11th
guys
and
can figure
15th
out a-
would be ideal.
Different day though.
So you're
Well,
gonna
she just
take
said
that
that's on the
off
board, on the agenda
also?
for the board meeting.
It's
We
on
can
the
change it and
agenda.
move it to a different board.
Okay, so let's do, yeah.
So
We'll
sometime next
reschedule the
week
public
you guys-
safety meeting, you'll have to adjust the agenda for this board.
Because I can't think a week ahead.
That'd be silly.
But what goes on Thursday night, so we're all on the same page?
6 o'clock, we're showing up for the board meeting, and then we're gonna
Closed
go
session.
into closed session after we
Open up.
Third.
call the meeting to order.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Right. And
Am
no-
I
no
right on
public
that?
safety,
Yes, you are.
no-
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Which we will then
Boom,
discuss the
right
wage and
there.
benefit report in
Right.
closed session.
Right.
So just the board meeting.
I was bummed, I
Just the
didn't
closed
make
session
meetings,
that's
but
involved in.
that's okay, this is good.
All right.
All right,
Okay, so what do we need to do tonight? Make a vote
Essentially,
or a
going back to our,
recommendation?
we need a recommendation coming out of here for Thursday night. So, or, we don't even need a recommendation,
No.
I need some kind of, basically a approval that we're,
A head
a
nod.
head nod that we should go ahead and try to submit for this $100,000 loan based upon the premise that we're gonna build a capital program and we're gonna do this without raising our side of, without raising the general, we're gonna raise our mill rate this year, but not raise the general taxation to the village residents.
I think it's a solid plan. I'm on board.
are you still though short 8,890? Is
Correct.
that what you're trying to point out to us,
Correct.
that we need to find somewhere to shave that off of this?
That's the next action plan that we need to discuss tonight. And I think we should, let's take care of the first one here, Julie, before we get into that,
Okay,
because there's some finances associated with that as well.
okay.
I'm nodding my head on the 100.
Okay,
I'm nodding.
Mhm.
Yeah, the
Okay.
100,000.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, up to 100,000, because it could
correct,
be less.
correct. It could be less. I don't think it'll be more because of the financials and where we're already coming in at for cents per thousand. I just don't think we'll be able to reduce it enough to stabilize.
Do you
I
need
do
a
not
motion?
want to increase taxes, the general taxes for the villagers this time around. I do not want that. I want to keep it below what they're currently paying. So,
Does somebody here need to make a motion for that, or is this,
no, that's a recommendation. So what we're gonna do then is now based on the dates on the bottom, between now 11/6 and 11/11, we're gonna do our diligence to try to create that budget, get that number close, and then we have to basically put it in, we're gonna print that summary with the right that we have to amend it, and then as that rest of the information comes in, then we come back to you on 12/5 with that final number. And that'll be not to exceed. And if it exceeds, you can call me and say, Dave, you lied to us, and we don't approve this, and then we go back to the drawing board, but I will not do that.
Okay.
That's where we're going with this.
The loan will have to be approved at a village board meeting.
It would
so
have-
at village board is where we're
Right.
approving it?
Correct.
Yes, correct.
That's already built into our 12/5 agenda. We've got,
Okay,
we.
but not
actually,
until
yeah,
12/5?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
So in the meantime, we have to find a way to reduce, take $9,000, almost 9,000 off.
Correct, correct. And I was hoping Norm would be here, Christina, so I'm just gonna apologize to you immediately. This is, the way I'm gonna go at this discussion is, we could be $1,000, or we could be, where we're currently at, $8,890 in a deficit, or we could have $100,000 of excess. The premise that I'm taking on this action and what I'm asking for is because we're in a position where we have to do something with the department. It's at that point, we need to do something.
Which department?
The municipal court.
Oh, okay.
And again, I was hoping Norm would be here, because this isn't, and I'm gonna apologize to you. I'm gonna go on record, I'm gonna apologize, because I went after the position when I should have went after the department. So, some of the things that are happening is out of everybody's control. But long story short is that this started last year with a review in October of the entire situation of the budget. So it was a review of what was happening, and essentially we're set up in a position where, and I've given suggestions on how we can improve it, and they were disregarded. Regardless, what's happening is that we're expending more money in the court system to retrieve fines and forfeitures than we're taking in the police department. So it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense that we are staffing somebody to try and recover funds that the police department is out writing tickets for. Now this year, we're gonna see an uptick. And this is what I propose to the executive committee. So I'm gonna pull up my sheet. And I'm just gonna read it, because if you go from the top. So the municipal court year-to-date is averaging $4,402 per month in receivables. The proposed year-end financials are forecasted to be $52,824. This is a banner year. And the only reason it's a banner year is because the judge was specifically asked to stop reducing tickets in the court system. Because the police department would reduce them on site, he'd come into the courtroom, he'd reduce them again, and then there we have a deficit. In 2017, revenues minus expenditures were $9,851. So the PD is all writing tickets, the court is bringing in $9,851 less than they write with their expenditures. In 2018, revenues minus expenditures, $9,329 negative. We are looking at, because of the changes that they have done with not reducing tickets and forfeitures and fines, they are finally in 2019 going to see a positive year of potentially, and it's estimated to see a year of $13,140 positive. However, for budgeting purposes, we've got to take a 3-year roll, a 3-year average of what we've seen. That still calls for a negative $4,345 in the year 2020 based on proposals. The note that I had on here, the current payroll associated is $31,680 in 2020. So I proposed to the executive committee that we reduce the department, my initial reduction asked for 25%. What I'd like to see is enough, I don't want to eliminate the department, because it's a value asset. We need a municipal judge because of the things that we do in the village with our ordinances and how we write tickets to snow removal and dogs and schools. So it's a valuable resource. But what I've asked, and based on the suggestions I've made, is we're expending all of our time trying to find money that is already lost. We need to clean the system up, and essentially the way I put it is, we need to reduce, fix and repair the system, take a look at the procedure, get control of the department, and realign with changes. And the only way we can do this statutorily is to reduce the budget expenditure, because we have no control over what the judge does in his department. So we've got to minimize the expenditures and the amount that the village contributes to the department. And that's the only way we can do that is to cut it. So what I'm asking for currently, until we can get it realigned, is to have a reduction that allows the court to operate. It pays the judge because his payroll is set by the state. He gets his pay. They have enough money to go to travel and expenditures they need to keep licensed and their schooling. And it allows them for 8 hours of processing a week, which should more than offset what comes in versus what we expend to collect on debt that we just won't collect. We're currently over $100,000 in receivables to the department. It's lost. We got to make a tough decision on what we need to do, because right now, everything that is coming in the police department is being expended to try to collect it. And it makes no sense. It makes none. When we're taking money out of savings to buy police squads, and we're using savings and having to do set-asides to have funds for police services, It's one thing offsetting the other. We have other options. I mean, I'm not looking to get rid of the department, we just gotta take a hard look at it.
I might have missed you, David, but where were they, I was trying to write down notes here, so now we're in the, I could use just the term, in the red. By how much right now? Like, how much do we have owed to us, I guess is what,
June was 102 and change, 102,000 and change.
102. Where were we at this time last year?
It's a static list, I've asked for that information, I have never gotten an answer.
Is it being chipped away? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? Is it? Do you know this,
Yeah,
Christina?
So the numbers, they obviously change every month, everything, it gets added to. But if you run it from the date from last year at this time, it has gone down. When we ran the numbers from June, it's gone down to 95,000. So in June, it was at 102,000 that was owed, now we're at approximately 95,000.
Why
For
hasn't,
that time frame.
why hasn't he gotten, the numbers as requested? What's the holdup?
And that was asked as of Thursday of last week. So, I mean, that's,
I mean, you know,
Right. it
you have to
takes
be
time
accountable
generate.
to the board, you have to be
Absolutely.
accountable to us. Why
Yes.
aren't we getting the information?
And that is why I started to attend the board meetings, to start putting the financials out there. It's something that's never been discussed.
We want it on
and
paper,
acknowledged.
we just don't want we want this.
Is it in our board packet that's coming up? There's something that was in our board packet, and I was
Yeah.
trying to read it a little bit today. Maybe the answers I want to ask are right in that board packet.
And
But
they would be in the minutes because Christina has come
Correct.
to meetings to report that.
so essentially, I'm gonna give you a general approximation from one of the reports. $7,500 came in on one of the dockets based on the forfeitures. And then they were able to take $500 off of the long-term debt. I believe that was in the report 2 months ago that she gave for the financials. So essentially what I'm led to believe then is the $7,500 basically gets either put in a Dropbox or mailed to the village, and then they process it as a deposit, whereas we're spending the rest of the time to try to collect the $500. That at what point do we just say enough's enough and we either get rid of it, write it off, or we sell it and try to get a collection agency on it? Again, I have a list here of the tweaks that I had suggested in July of the year. And we can go into it, that's why I was hoping Norm would be here, because everything that I suggested was disregarded. We offer a payment plan that doesn't work. We're too lenient on it, and the majority of these people aren't village residents. These are people that are passing through. And we're giving options. So essentially, and we're trying to collect from people that have multiple offenses in multiple jurisdictions, and the money's just not gonna come in. We're wasting our time.
But aren't we kind of limited to how we can, I mean, obviously the payment plan is one thing, but aren't we kind of limited, the state statute, maybe you can help with this, Chris?
And
Maybe
she's gonna have
Christina.
the answers for that. They are, but I know that they are limited, and I know that most jurisdictions accept payment plans because something is better than nothing.
Correct.
I don't know that a whole lot of jurisdictions, I know that Grand Chute at one point was using a collection agency. Then you're paying somebody to collect your debt when it's cheaper to have somebody collect the debt for you, which is your own employee.
Can we
But-
still attach to tax refunds?
And we still do,
Scale.
we do.
We do?
The
She,
SEC.
she's doing four different things to collect money, which in most agencies, and believe it or not, the suspension of a driver's license, threatening to suspend somebody's driver's license who doesn't have a suspended driver's license, or suspending the registration is very effective, because once you do that, but then you gotta watch out, because you don't wanna put people in jail,
Yeah,
because then we're on the hook as a village to pay $53 per day that they sit in jail. So,
And they're not earning any money.
no,
Correct.
you know,
well,
unfortunately, it's a vicious cycle, and unfortunately, that 111,000 that was out there was way back when I was working here in 2000, that there was probably 50,000 already on the books, and it's just kind of climbed.
do we sell any paper to a collection agency now? It might be a good opportunity, because like you say, half of it's better than
Correct.
none of it.
Because we're
we-
really not gaining much
Not at all.
at all.
No, and unfortunately, unfortunately for the numbers, I mean, we can write, I don't know, we're averaging about between 7 and 11,000 a month, on traffic citations. So, I mean, if she's collecting 7,000, and we're bringing in 7 more, the numbers are just staying even. So,
But if
It's-
she,
it's a catch-22 for her,
it is.
Right.
because she's just
And
trying
unfortunately,
to,
Christina, you're in the middle, okay? There's not, the system is what's flawed.
Yeah, it is.
It's flawed, and that's why I apologize. I went after the department, or I went after the position rather than the department.
So the question comes down to the, and I'm gonna use the horrible, the easy money, we're gonna call it, because this is what lawyers call it, like when you
Correct.
sue, there's the easy money, and then there's the money that you, so if you ever have to sue somebody, they'll say, this is the easy money, right? So if you went into the insurance company, you could just get it and they would give it to you. So the easy money in this circumstance would be the people who voluntarily pay, who just come, they go to court, they come in, okay, yeah, here's a check, here you're done. Or they put the money in the mail and it's done. So there isn't any collections involved. Okay, so what we're looking at is the not easy money, right? So the easy money that wouldn't, so we're looking at the investment in the budget of the municipal court to pay for getting the not easy money versus how much is actually coming in. That's the question that we're
Correct.
dealing with.
Correct.
Okay, because the easy money comes in regardless. The stuff that you have to work for is the stuff that we're looking at. And how much money are we investing in the municipal court's budget that is being allocated in that budget to be able to get that money? And if we're allocating, so say, I'm just gonna throw out a number, say we're allocating $10,000 to the municipal court budget, right? And that money is being translated into collections, and that collections end up netting $5,000. That was a waste of $10,000, right? Because we paid $10,000 to get $5,000,
Correct.
right? So that's where
Right.
that's where we're at, and I think that's a simple way of that's a
Correct.
simplification of it. But
I mean,
think
that's
where we're at.
understandable. I guess I'm just trying to think of if we look at reducing the budget for that particular department, the chances of us ever putting that money back into a budget at a future time. Let's say we realize we get into this a year from now and go, this was a big mistake. What are the chances we're ever gonna put it back?
You know what, you have to look at everything that way, okay?
Yeah.
Everything is a line item.
I understand that. I
Okay.
just know, like, I think of the library.
There,
You know, when we did the budget with the library, once you take it out, it's so hard to put it back in. I think are there other municipalities that are struggling like we are, or are there other municipalities that have gotten it figured out how to get that hard money?
Yeah,
They
there
figured it
are,
out.
because I called the corporation council for the county to look for options, and I essentially got some numbers. They're favorable to eliminating the court system and pushing everything in the county.
Do you have that data that you could share with us?
I haven't compiled it yet because we don't know if we qualify, because there are so many municipalities that are looking to go to the county that their study becomes,
But then that hurts our ordinances. We could sit
Well,
here and pass 100
it's
ordinances.
not even that, Julie. We might not get accepted because they don't have the people to process it.
Well, and they're bogged down now. I can't
Exactly.
even imagine
Yeah.
that they would
Exactly.
even wanna deal with ordinance violations from Hortonville. I
So-
mean, when they're dealing with felonies
And then
So
that
I-
makes our ordinances.
I
practically
did other
useless.
calling, and a lot of it is being assumed by other workers, deputy clerks, police clerks. It's a receivable. It's a receivable. So again, we're not chasing the people. The bigger thing is we need to look at the system, and that goes back to, and this is the part that really scares me, and I'm gonna tell you this again, Christina. I'm not pointing a finger and ever say you steal a penny, but we gotta go back to what happened in Bellevue.
Mhm.
Our system is flawed. It does not allow for a resolution. A resolution is either you pay your fine, your license is suspended, and it goes to state debt collection at 90 days. We don't have the resolve on ours because we offer payment plans. We don't know where a lot of this money is. It's sitting in limbo.
And we can't change okay, so the payment plan is something that each municipal judge sets up themselves.
Correct.
And
Correct.
there's nothing, due to state statute, we can't alter that.
Correct.
He has no guidance. He sits over there and calls his own shots. We should have a committee, like we did for the other issues we've had in Parker Heights, that sits down with the judge and a couple of the board members and the administrator had come up with some kind of a plan that's amenable and works for everybody.
The tricky
And
part of that
They have
here
to
is
have
state
guidelines to
statute.
follow. They don't have that.
And
Am I correct?
Well, there's state.
I mean,
Unfortunately-
realistically,
and unfortunately, the judge is elected, so
I know
what
that.
his decisions are,
but
is
Yeah.
it's his decision.
Right.
It's how he sets it up.
Yeah.
Circuit
And that's where the
judges are
fault
same.
is. When you're getting paid
Yeah.
$860 a month to show up in court, what, 1 day a week?
4 hours.
Or 4 hours? I mean, what's the incentive to sit down and come up with a comprehensive guideline, a plan to operate my business? I mean, that's,
Yeah, that's the flaw.
That's
That's
the
part of the
flaw.
flaw in the system, is
That's
that
the
we,
flaw.
there's
He
no
has-
oversight.
he
There's
has-
no accountability
there's
and no
no
oversight.
But I don't think we-
accountability,
There's
there's no
no checks
oversight.
and balances.
Right.
The tricky part
Right.
is state statute.
Yeah.
We're very limited to what we can do.
Actually,
I-
we're not.
No, we're not.
No?
That's, no, this
We can
doesn't
have
fall
them-
under state. This falls under the board.
Yeah.
It's our decision.
It's
We
our
have to
decision.
We
manage
can't
it.
choose how he, I'm not on either side of the fence here, Peter. I'm just trying to understand. I've been told state statute.
No,
And I did a
that's
little
wrong.
research as far as how
We-
the court is.
Yeah, okay. No,
This
It
is why I
doesn't-
wish I would have been part of that discussion the other night, because
Yeah.
I think, you know, and so I'm so glad we're gonna have more discussion on it. But I think we could beat this dead horse over and over
yeah.
again.
And we don't need
I
to do
just
that
need to-
here.
and
What
I
we
love
need to
your
do is
idea.
come up with another committee, 4 or 5 people, that sits down with the judge and comes up with a plan, a comprehensive plan,
Yeah.
a guideline. This is your work schedule, this is what you're responsible for and accountable for. And these are the guidelines, and this is what you follow.
I
But
think before that,
unfortunately-
we need to read what if there are
There are
municipal
none.
judge
We already researched that.
standards.
And I have a few, okay, so he can resign, so if that's his option, he can do that. I also have a state statute that tells us how we file for his vacancy. We can also have him removed by a 4-7 motion, if that's the course of action we need to do. That's 17-13, removal of elected official. We then have to post a notice of vacancy. Again, this isn't in our best interest to remove
No,
the court
to
system.
me, it sounds
Right.
I
like a
don't wanna
bully
go down
system.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
We need to make some changes. I gave a list of potential. Norb basically disregarded it. Norb and I don't see eye to eye, because I called him on his operation, and he doesn't want to hear it.
But if
That's
somebody
it.
told me that they could remove me with a 4-7 vote, I wouldn't be receptive.
Julie, that's the first time I said it.
I know, but I
That's the
mean,
first time I've said it,
but
but
he's
I have
gotta
to do my
read
homework
between the
on it too.
lines. I
you
wouldn't
know?
be receptive to it either.
But he's also got to be receptive to having some change. You know, and I don't want to drag him through the mud. He's not
But
here.
you know,
He's
we
not
have
here-
to be accountable to our taxpayers. We're paying a full-time police force to write tickets. We should be getting the money for those tickets. We are not getting the money for those tickets. We're getting the free money, like you said, but we're not getting $100 and some $1,000 that's dragging, and no one is doing anything about it. That's where we, as a board, have to make a decision. Let's cut this department, that's the word I'm looking for, so that we have to force some accountability here.
Right.
And that is we as a board, that's what we as taxpayers have to do. Or why are we paying a full-time police force? Then let's lay off half our police force.
I don't like the idea that the offenders
And
are
we don't
getting
wanna
a
do
double
that.
discount.
We like our
And,
police force.
That
We
happens.
like our
in-
court.
What?
That happens in almost all courts.
No,
Seems
not,
like.
not like that.
No.
Not like what I've
No.
seen.
Well,
I've been to court on the other side, and I sat in the court here, and my jaw was dropping. But
there's a
I
lot of
think-
plea bargaining that goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Certain
bigger
well,
than
courts.
that.
Could, what can
I
we
hear what
do?
you're saying, don't
but,
get me wrong,
yeah,
but.
so I don't,
Essentially, Julie, like I said in my summary, we need to tear it down so we can repair it back
Right.
appropriately. And unfortunately, it's going to come at the cost of hours to a staffer. And that's the unfortunate side of it. But the only way that we can positively going into 2020 and start to show a positive gain is by taking away some of the negative. And that is unfortunately where we can cut is in hours.
I know. I guess I'd like to finish my question.
Yep.
What can we do? Okay, I think of Parker Heights. I think of that smaller group that sat down and a very positive outcome came out of that, where it went from very heated and elevated down to something much different. Now granted, it didn't go away entirely, but it made something that was elevated down to something much more,
Palatable.
thank you.
Okay.
We're adults. We're bigger than this. We're
Absolutely.
better than this. Can't we, and I'm not suggesting that we keep something in the budget or cut something from the budget, but before we attack one particular department, could we create a smaller group that is non-threatening, that does talk about some of the, let's come up with some solutions. I mean, I just feel like there's an opportunity here for progress instead of just axing something, and I think it's gonna backfire. I just,
You know, I'm in your camp. The issue I have with this discussion is we're getting off track here.
we are.
I think we need to bring this up for further discussion, maybe go into the committee issue and talk about that. But we are dealing with an almost $9,000 budget issue here that we need to resolve.
And I have a question actually about something on the budget, completely unrelated.
I don't think we should
So-
get away from this yet,
Yeah.
because there's a few other things that I need to tell you.
Oh,
In June and July of this year, I offered a one-page suggestion list of what we could do to improve the system. It was disregarded. We also have an elected official that doesn't use email, up until just recently has never used his own signature with a rubber stamp, has no regard for his department. If he cared about it, he'd be sitting out there right now representing his department. That's part of the issue. I
And
go
thank
in
you
there.
for that.
I go in there, Julie, and I'm told, what the hell do you want? What are you here for? What do you gotta bug me about now?
Peter, you were elected to that position and declined it to take the board seat. If somebody handed this to you, how receptive would you be to that?
well,
You may not have intended it to be one way, but I think we're right now, we're butting heads, and I'm just trying to figure out, is there a way to be to solve a problem versus just butting heads and pounding fists and everything else?
I'll go back to what I said before. I think that's where this committee comes in.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I come from a military background. I've been an officer in charge. I've had people underneath me. I've had 3 or 4 successful businesses. If I were handed a page like that, I would have dealt with it immediately. And I would have sat down with him. Yeah, that's the way I am.
I don't,
Norm is a military, he's retired Army. And he should have, I think his scruples, moral scruples, and his business acumen should be better than what he's exhibiting. It probably won't do any good to talk to him because, like you said, he should be sitting in
yeah.
Yeah.
Should be
the
here.
gallery now, but,
And
and
honestly,
maybe
Julie,
he's just sick of it.
honestly, this is what you're paying me to do,
I know.
to take a look
I
at these
get,
systems
I'm
and
not saying you
critique
did something
and try
wrong,
to
I'm
fix
just
an issue.
saying, sometimes how things are, how somebody perceives something is certainly not how you intended it, and maybe, I wasn't part of the conversations. I just think at this point, before we start bashing a department or attacking one department, I think we should consider that maybe there's some kind of bridge we can rebuild here.
You know, if we move forward with this budget, we can always amend it, like you said. And maybe we have this formulated committee to sit down and come up with some ideas how to cut the cost in that department, make some changes significant. Right?
I honestly don't think, unless we tear it down, we can't rebuild it. Because again, if we don't, the only thing we can control in that department right now is the purse strings. If we don't make a substantial reduction in that department, nothing is gonna change.
But you just said the only thing we can control is the purse string.
Correct.
So-
Yep.
And
But
that's where
sitting
we
down
can-
and coming up with a change in process, or getting rid of that, okay, you can take longer than 90 days to pay. Because I think that's a big problem right now, is we're giving people more than 90 days to pay.
It should never get to 90 days.
No, it should never, but I mean, that's, people have been out there for years, correct?
What's that?
Most are 90 days.
State
Most are
collection-
90.
state debt
But
collection
we
is
are
90
like an
days.
indefinite kind of thing, right?
It's-
But like Christina said, didn't you say these are out to 2004?
Yeah, a lot of them go
That's a
way back.
long
Yeah,
time.
right. That's,
Well,
that
those
shouldn't be.
are
And
ones that
nothing-
they made contact and tried getting these people to pay. You know, we had a traffic stop with them back in 2004. They tried contacting the person, they can't contact the person. She's been looking through them, her and Julie, and they're finding out that some of these people have been deceased. you know, for years. So they've been, you know, writing those off if that's your process that you're doing, but I know that her and
It's like
Julie have been
2 years.
working hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess right now, how many hours a week do you have, 24? Jackson had 20 hours, we had a third of the citations that we're writing here. I think that we have to look at if we reduce her hours to 12 hours or 10 hours per week, is she gonna be able to get these all processed? There's a process that she has to do before court, and then there's a process that she has to do after court. These citations have to go back and forth to Department of Motor Vehicle in a timely manner. They have to get into a system within so many hours. I mean, that's something that we need to think about too, because if she can't get that stuff in there, then we may be just dismissing citations because of timelines too.
You know, if
So,
That's a good point.
I'm not sure, but
It's a good point, but there's also been major discrepancies on time card and time reporting. I didn't want to drag mud, but I'm dragging mud,
okay, so,
okay?
okay, so now we're entering into discussions about specific people and
Correct.
specific departments,
Correct.
which I want to take into closed session. I don't want that out here.
No, I agree.
I don't
Can I
want it
speak?
recorded.
Could I speak on behalf of the information that he said was shared with the court? Would that be okay if I could comment on that?
I don't know if you
More
should.
information.
It's a committee of the whole, it's not a formal board meeting, I guess. We're talking about her department.
So when.
Madam President?
No, I'm not the madam
But should it
president.
come
No,
from,
her.
should it come from her and not Norm? That's the other question.
Yeah.
And the whole point is this something we should be discussing in closed session?
No, the information that I want to share is nothing that needs to be closed
Okay.
session whatsoever. It's just based on the recommendations that David had shared with the court back in June. So he made his list of what his thoughts were on things and how we should change. So the difference is that he did not follow up to check in what was done with that and where the follow-up was done with Norb and I to go through our processes. So I can go through the whole explanation of things that I've done and tracking and accountability and transparency and the electronic use of the court system, because coming into it, there was a lot of years of no electronic system. So yes, our debt collection has some from 2004. Soon it's gonna have some older than that, because I can enter them in back to 1900. We have all the court receipts from many, many years ago. So I can put that debt, try to contact them, put it into state debt collection so they can try and recoup that money. So that's another piece of my debt collection that I go to. I have made it so you could go through my whole debt list, where it's at for every single citation, and I am working backwards in time. So you could come into my department, look at what is going on. Norm, he does it. He has confidence in what I do. And you can have the conversation with him. All of his recommendations, absolutely. The struggles that I have, I can list those for you as well. But I take a lot of pride in what I do in my department, and Norm puts a lot of faith in me. And as a board, you are welcome to sit down with us anytime to go through what we have done since I started. And I have all of the proof of that. So I am 100% open to show you the changes that we have made to improve, to collect, to move forward, because I enjoy the computer system. It functions very well. The details, it shows what I do. 17,000 items have been entered into that computer system since I started.
If
I
we,
can print that whole report to show you. I mean, there's a lot more to my job than just collecting old debts. There's customer service, there's
Yeah. And if we
follow-up
do
on-
form a committee, I think that would be the appropriate place to sit down with you, show us what you're doing, show us what you're entering, and give us an overall view of it.
anytime.
Yeah, I want to make a little comment though, and I don't want to be confrontational about it. It's great that you're open about that and that you're inviting the board to do that, but that's not really our position, right? So, from the police, from Public Works, the other police officers don't come in here and ask us to come out and look to see what they're doing. They don't ask us to come into other departments. That's not what we do. We can, by all means, you know, go in and ask questions and learn, right? But that's not what we do. They all report to David, right? And David informs us at the meetings or whenever we have a question. We don't run around to each individual department of each employee and learn what they do and how successful or unsuccessful or problems that they have or anything, what they like and what they don't like. That's not our role. It is in our purview to do that, but it's not our role to do that. Our role is to take the information that gets disseminated up through the department heads or up through the village administrator to us. And from my understanding, that line of communication is fairly broken. So I just want to point that out, right? So it's great that you have expressed, you know, your enthusiasm toward the position. It's great that you love what you're doing, that Norm is confident in what you're doing, and I really like to hear that. But the way that information is disseminated to us as the board appears to be broken, because it comes from you or the department head to David, and then from David to us for the most part. And if we need to work our way back for more detailed information, or we need other information, we work through that path as well. Okay? I just want to make sure I pass that on, and that, you know, I applaud your enthusiasm, but that's how that has to happen.
So this $8,900 deficit right now can be resolved after further discussions at the closed session.
Actually, I do have a question about one of the, it's Public Works, can I ask Carl? And not to pick on Carl, but only because I just see a big jump. I'm looking at, oh good lord, to tell you what page this is on. It's under street maintenance, under expenditures.
Yeah, that's for street treatments and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, but there's one line specific that I'm looking at.
Okay.
Do you have some big contract you're doing this coming year? Because you made a note that it says MSC seal coat. It went from 25 to 50,000, and it includes sweeping. And I thought we bought a street sweeper that was going to save us oodles of money.
Well, if we don't street sweep, we'll have to do maintenance on the street sweeper, so that allows me to do that. That note on the right, that's just for me. It's not
Okay.
for you. The MSC is, I need to seal coat the parking lot here. The actual $30,000 increase will go into street treatments, crack filling, stuff like that, and residential stuff.
I just needed to understand because of the
No, that's
side
fine.
note.
Yeah, I don't have to look at it. But, yeah, so that's the only increase basically in public works is that $30,000 for treatments and maintenance of streets.
Okay, I just saw
And,
sweeping and I
we
went.
tried to do that instead of a capital, because it's not really a capital project. It's an everyday
Maintenance.
line item.
We wanted,
It's a
and
maintenance.
Carl and I had that discussion that to just say $50,000, some, break it up. We want to keep it capital because capital improvement is long-term maintenance for roadway. Is an ongoing thing to prolong the life.
It was such a
rather
big
than-
jump and that's
Yeah.
why I was
Yeah,
asking.
no, I
And
agree.
because of the
It
side
was,
note.
and it was a, you know, I've been doing, well, this is like my 10th budget, and, you know, Public
Right.
Works has always been the whipping boy when it came to cutting money to make sure everybody else had theirs. And the opportunities.
Yeah.
Nobody
Right.
wants to cut it. I guess what I just needed to
To
understand.
put some back in there to start doing crack filling. You know, if we don't, we've got roads out there that were put in 5-10 years ago that only have, if we don't do something with them, they're only gonna have
Yeah.
5 or 10 years more of life when they should have 30 to 40. And that's a big issue, you know. You spend $5,000 to save yourself 30. So again, that's just line item expenditures, just for street, that's for,
And
no,
that was
I'm
my,
glad you asked, because it's for road maintenance.
it's not a
for
capital.
repaving a block of
Yep.
Birch Street, which is in 443.
I think for next steps, I think, and I'm not taking credit for this, Gene had a big part, Nathan had a huge part, Carl had a huge part. I think we should now go to the budget meeting, part of this. And if there's something, let's go through the line items, anything that's got a blue. If you see something that sticks out to you, or Nathan's got a ton of notes that him and I went through today, we'd like to talk to you on why some of these are up and the percentages are up. Do you think that'd be the best bet, Nathan? Because we have notes that might be able to help give you information on as to why some of these are above and beyond what you're seeing on from 2019 to 2020 proposal. You or me?
It's up to you.
Okay.
Can I just interject one thing here?
Yes, sir.
As in the past, I'm going to ask to be excused at 7, because at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. I have to take my maintenance medication. It has to be timely, so,
I think we'll be done before then.
what do you think so?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you
He
have
always
any,
has a lot of questions.
do you have any specific questions? Do you?
Yeah, when are you gonna get your new vehicle?
Oh, well, that depends on 443 and budget.
No, I don't. I really don't.
Nothing stood out in there?
No.
again?
Should there be?
No?
Are you hiding something?
No, we had, you know, the biggest thing that we need to report is we had significant increases in healthcare this year. It came in at 8.5% proposed. Jamie, 5 different vendors we worked with to try to get a better rate, right? 4 or 5, including Wisconsin Retirement. It actually came in at 8.5 proposed. We ended up settling at 10.4% increase across the
Oh,
board.
you're kidding.
That's good. School district saw 12 this year.
Mhm.
That was the best deal, and unfortunately, it was with our same vendor, which we have a high deductible, you know, so we're also offsetting with a reimbursement account for our employees, so, nobody's gonna fix that. That in itself, going back to that first page, that added 32,828 across the board in healthcare costs for our 22 full-time employees.
There'll come a time when healthcare costs will probably equal your salary.
Absolutely.
unfortunately.
So that's a big ticket item. Chris's budget is very much inflated in the police department because I've asked her to set aside $12,000 a year in a set-aside fund for a squad, instead of having to consistently go to fund balance and savings. For now, we've built in, and we're doing that with a balanced budget, we've built in $12,000 a year, so $1,000 a month. So every 3 years, she can have a fund to replace a vehicle rather than begging, borrow, and pleading for it.
Okay.
So that's in hers.
How much a year?
12,000 a year, so 1,000 a month. We're currently paying seven.
She's got Spillman as well.
She's got a new Spillman software, which is $4,500. We did have an employee that offset our insurance, that helped out tremendously. So that's one of the line items. We also have upticks for assessment, because we're paying an assessor a base rate right now, where we've averaged it over the 5 years, like we agreed to as a village board. So that's an uptick of 34%.
Do we have any things that are expected to come in quite a bit under budget for 2019 that could roll into 2020?
We're working on the roll right now, but we're gonna see
I mean,
some.
I think there'll be some which could help with that $8,900.
This has got, I believe, 10,000 on the
Yeah,
roll.
10,000.
We have 10,000 roll right now, and it's gonna be close to that. I mean, it's, the good thing about the department heads is they've
Yeah,
drawn a thin line. They
they do.
you know. So Spillman, Nate said Spillman, we got the set aside fund. We have a 10% increase in EMS because of the fire budget's up 10%, because we're gonna be compensating our emergency medical responders. So that's up 10%, so you see an uptick on that.
Snow plowing.
Snow plowing is up because we're consistently even behind with the county for what we owe them.
What about the civil defense siren utilities?
We did see a $500 stipend. We're gonna have that a credit. We have not received it yet, but we've heard notification of it. But Nathan, you just told me about that today.
Yeah, there's a $1,000 increase in expenses because it's gonna be going to us rather than the county.
Okay, that's what I
And then they
thought.
offset it by 500, but we have to see it, we don't know when to account for it. Carl also mentioned we're up 32.5 to 40,000 because snow has been out the last 2 seasons, or 3 seasons. However, we're gonna hope to offset that with a plow this year.
Right.
But again, a pickup truck can't handle a foot of snow. That's for the 1 to 3 inch occasions, you know.
So, Carl,
Yes, sir.
how much do you think a pickup truck with a new plow, or with a plow would
You mean
offset?
if I could drop that back down some if I got the plow?
Yeah. How much could you think, could we knock off?
I'd go as much as 5.
Okay.
I'm just throwing it out there.
That's fine?
Depends on the weather.
Yeah.
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 Again, I plowed commercially for 20 years. You can't
As
can't
you've seen,
handle
I've
a
been
pickup
38,
truck.
37.
How much, more
Foot
than
of
6?
snow. 6 inches you can handle, but
Okay.
you're talking major roadways here.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
know.
you're not,
But you're talking 6 inches over 12 feet versus 6 inches over
The parking lot,
20 feet
yeah.
back to the curb is a little
Yeah,
different.
oh yeah.
It's a little much.
So-
Yeah. We're talking 1 to 3 inch snow versus,
Yeah,
So could we take some of our buckets and revert, take them off and put a blade on the front?
well, then it comes down to manpower. You know, if we get to the point where we bring out another labor in Public Works, then at that time, it would behoove us to buy a loader big enough with a plow and a wing blade like Greenville does.
Yeah.
But we're not at that point right now. We just can't financially justify it.
what I've talked to Carl about it, I think, were we anti-ice with putting down salt brine
Yeah,
prior to?
Right.
That's really a cheap system that we could probably do it underneath the operating budget and put a
If we-
guy in a truck with something with 250 gallon tank.
yeah.
Typically put down 40 to 50 gallons to lane mile. You could cover a lot of the village and take care of, rather than the county coming in with
Yeah, that's a
5
good
or
point.
10 yard.
Also built into our capital program.
If we stick with the capital plan as is and we do the brining like Dan's talking about, yeah, I could pull that number back. We may still go over, but,
Depends on the weather.
you know,
We've also minimized service contracts for mowing. We've cut those back, so we're gonna try to do it with our own manpower this year versus contractual mowing. Other things that we have in here is expansion of hours. We've upticked the hours of the composting site because that's been a consistent complaint to the village residents. So we wanna do an expansion of the hours. Another one in here for refuse collection, and it needs to be, it's not a line item, but Nate brought it up today. It needs to be, it adds to the percentage increase of the department, and it's not zeroed out. So, because it looks like have a huge refuse increase from 115 to 128,000.
What line item are you on?
It'd be on 53,620.
Okay.
So it upticked from 115,000 to 128,000. So it's showing a 12% increase to Public Works, when in essence that's offset by a revenue, because we collect on that. So that, we should be able to just, that 12% is basically deceiving to the upticks in the percentages. It should be zeroed out on the account here. The next page is that we had the ending of the mowing contracts. What else? Memorial Square, we added 500 because, or 1,500 because we're gonna try to add some more amenities into Memorial Square.
Are those things that we could solicit donations for, or
Always,
some?
always.
I mean,
Yeah.
those are, like Julie was saying, are there ways we can pick away at other things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, and again, we have a little bit of adjusting to do with the revenue side.
you know, there might be some flexibility with the capital program as well.
Absolutely.
Opera House.
Opera House, oh, that place.
It was warm in there today.
We upticked the professional services in the conservation and development for the publication for the Village Voice, because that came in over budget from what we budgeted last year. So we added an additional 600 there. And those are the big ones, those are the big ticket items. Otherwise, we pretty much held the line on department heads. It wasn't what we needed, it wasn't what we want, it was what we needed again this year. And kudos to all the departments for coming in pretty much on track. And Jane, I think you had a little bit with elections. I didn't really note that in here. You had a little bit uptick with election stuff, right, materials?
No, it's before
There's
election.
4 elections. and
Yeah,
one
there's
this
4
year.
elections this year, so that's another
No,
thing we
did
gotta.
Aren't you a certified clerk now too?
Yes.
So you're a certified clerk, are you I'm not asking you to do any extra duties, but are you planning on doing anything with the upcoming election at
I
all?
did, last year I was here as needed. I sat down at the table for a couple hours and whatever I could do to help.
Okay,
So I plan on that day being
Just-
accessible, yeah.
yeah, just curious
If
if
we're ever
that,
short of workers, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
not that I'm trying to,
So our workers make nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're
Oh,
not,
that
you're
is
not
so true.
going to save.
No.
They don't.
No,
I know,
but
I
if-
was.
but if,
You're
let's
not
say
going to
something
save
happened,
any money there.
but let's say Jane had to step away, or something you had, or Nathan, that we have we have a double backup for a certified clerk, is what I'm getting at,
Right.
yeah.
Certified inspector is what you need, right?
Well, that's inspector, I'm
Election
talking
Chief
inspector.
election inspector is what
Inspector
you
is
would.
what,
Yep.
for
Alright.
elections, you have to, yeah.
Okay.
It could be like another person, could
I know
be
you were going through
certified
a
to do
class
that.
or something, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm finishing up. I'm taking the completion now for the treasurer's track this year.
Okay,
Did somebody have a question about the upper house? I heard something.
Yeah.
you had mentioned something about, heating, you needed a
Well,
boiler.
one of the things we found out this year was not have people have control of that air conditioner. Every time we get down there, someone would turn the, what we did, we put a lockbox on it. We're probably gonna go over, well, we are over in expenditures in the opera house already for this year. But we're gonna clamp down on that. We put a lockbox on the thermostat. One of the things we're gonna do next year is, start replacing the countertops in the bathrooms and, one main one in the kitchen. I got $2,500 in there. It's probably gonna take,
I know you've got some big-
$1,500 of that just for the countertops.
The boiler was repaired with a pump, a new motor pump.
You know.
So
It's
that was
something that
repaired
should
for
be
now.
put on a real close,
Possibly a capital campaigns for
Yes,
some things
I'm-
like we've done in the past.
I'm working with Ledebur, with WEDC for some potential grant dollars here. It's matching funds, but if it offsets, it offsets.
Okay.
And a good portion of the overages for the Opera House was from the donations that we had to expense out of that account, that we got revenue from a donation for the blinds.
Okay.
Getting back to the snow truck, so we're confident in the capital plan and buying that. Did you want me to pull some money out of the snow budget to help offset for? Well, I'm gonna say for court or whatever. You guys are looking for, I don't wanna do that just for the court,
We're gonna have that discussion with Waking
Yeah,
Benefit
we're-
report
Right.
on Thursday night.
Yep.
but as far as snow plowing, reducing that number, we still gotta find money in the budget. We're over, whether it's for the court or just in general, we're over. I mean, are we confident that,
Why don't we wait till we get through these other meetings? Can we do that?
I think so.
You might even, a little
Yeah.
further in the year too, might even understand maybe how the potential rollovers could affect budget as well.
Essentially, we gotta get to the point where
We can't rely on it, but it would be
Yeah, I
something
mean,
to
we've
consider.
got a strong forecast. It's tight, Julie.
I know.
And it's
I
tight.
know,
If we can add $2,000 to 2,500 tops on that, I mean, that's,
but it's 2,500,
yeah, I
it's
know.
better than nothing.
I know. Again, and this isn't a rip on Christina. We could add 100,000 fund balance going into the budget cycle here, and I would have still asked for a reduction in the services. Because it's at my recommendation that we take a hard look at that procedure, so.
Jane? Dave, I'd be excused.
Yes.
Before you go, I wanna make a comment.
Yeah.
The village board budget,
Mm-hmm.
hasn't changed in 20 years. You are not gonna be here forever, I'm not gonna be here forever. Currently, I just did the numbers the other day. It is costing me about $200 a month to sit here, in what I'm losing. So if we want to move forward, and have, I mean, if you're retired, it's great. It's just a little bit of extra change in your pocket, but for those people who have employment and they have to leave their jobs, this position, at some point should not be a net negative.
Right.
For some, and we, this isn't a moneymaker. That's not what I'm proposing, that somebody ever try to run for the board to be able to, have this be their job.
This is an opportunity to serve.
It is an opportunity to serve, but,
I know where you're going,
it
because I
is,
think the 250 I know where you're going with
yes,
this.
cost adjusted for the last 20 years, that would be
So,
385.
250's
It's
been
not-
on the books for how long? Any idea?
I don't know if that
I
Yeah.
think, boy, since I was
Forever.
born.
a
Yes.
long time?
So
Okay.
I think we should address an adjustment, and so that in the future, I think that we should adjust, there should be some, so the future boards don't have to bring it up and say, hey, I want to give myself a raise, because that's a horrible position to be in. But it should be cooked in, the same as every place else, every other. So we sit here and we're listening to, everybody in the public works is a 2.5%, 3%, everybody here is 2.5%, 3%. It should be cooked in, instead of having to have a board member come and do what I'm doing right now and saying that the position itself shouldn't be a net negative for
I agree.
everybody.
However, that's not for discussion here.
Yes,
I think this discussion should happen,
in the close.
maybe in the closed session, maybe as part of the closed session.
Does that qualify for
Okay.
school?
Yeah, you're an
Sure.
employee.
And
Yes.
it's- yeah,
But I just wanted to bring it up for, I'm
Yeah.
not going through specifics and I'm not
I don't-
looking for a discussion, but I would like everybody to think about it.
the,
Because it is something that should be addressed.
and I totally agree. The discrepancy, the unfairness I see in this whole process is, for those of us that are retired, we can afford to sit here and make other meetings for $250 a month. However, the village president, and I think this is where the unfairness comes in, is the village president. What?
I think it's more than $250 a month, isn't it?
No,
No,
we get $250 a month.
Village president
Village
is
president.
$3,000 a year, which
Yes.
is on par with,
Village
The
president
trustees
gets
get $250, the village president gets
Yeah.
$350.
Right, okay.
She probably spends 10 times more time doing business here than I do, and I think that's totally unfair. So these discussions should really happen, and I can throw the numbers out because it's public record. I think these discussions should be handled at our closed session as part of an agenda item. And with that, I bid you further adieu. Good evening.
Good night.
thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Yep, take care. Any raises though wouldn't take effect until after your term, is how it works. State law. So it'd be at your next election term is when the raises
I'll
would
stop in and see
work.
before you go home.
So,
Call me first.
just letting you guys.
Yep.
Okay. See you again.
Yeah, take care, Peter, thank you.
Also, Halloween, under Halloween, July 4th,
Thank you.
and other
I wanted to
celebrations,
ask about
it went up 1,500 because of the issue. We have our senior activities committee in there rather than moving. The goal is to move that to its own line, which is further down the list.
It's
So
been
that
in there
will-
all the while, Pat,
Yeah, it was just hiding on us.
hiding on us.
seriously?
Yep.
So next year,
Yes.
we're gonna
We
we're
were
gonna
under
end up
Halloween,
moving
why
this.
didn't I know that?
So we have our own line item right here, senior activities reserve. That's where that 1,500 will end up going, and it'll be taken out of the Halloween and other 4th of July, other celebration stuff. So that money will, that increase won't be there.
So,
It'll just be on this lower level, other financing uses. It says senior activities reserve, so that way it will roll yearly for us, whatever's left over.
okay. It says financed by donations though. What,
Correct, and that's what it used to be used as. It used to be like a estimate. Where the reserve is what's left over at the end of the year, like at the end of your, minus our expenses for the year.
Didn't we do that a
So-
few years ago? Didn't you ask if what was left over because it was being removed at one point? I remember you were on the senior activities committee and you had asked for it to be put into a reserve fund.
And that's,
And then
we
last year
do.
it was removed.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, all right. I
there
just-
wasn't a budget line.
It wasn't a budget line last
No,
year.
we thought it was
But
removed.
there is money in that account from the prior year.
Okay.
So there is like $130 something dollars.
That's what I was,
And that's about what we came in had credit.
Well, yeah.
On this.
So that'll be it.
We made money. Yes, and then some.
I didn't feel good today. so.
The portable audio speaker, is that, can you explain that?
Yes, that was at the recommendation of citizens, after the, speech that I gave for Memorial Day, knowing that our Legion does not have a decent audio system to use for their presentations.
weren't they able to use the auditorium? Wasn't that at the auditorium?
However, the one outside, when they tried to carry it to the outside, when they do the park by the park, and then the outside of the, when they do their salute, they don't have a way to hear. I got basically about 25 emails in the week full. So, working with the Legion Post, and that's something that, with our potential ride share, if they become our drivers and volunteers, we're gonna help offset their expenditures with that program as well as senior services. That's how we're really gonna direct any funds that we receive out of that ride share would be put towards senior services as well as Legion Post. So we gotta get them started. They basically told me they don't have the funds to expend on that. Nothing promised either, it was just something
Nothing
that we
in
line item.
concrete here then, either.
Correct. You gotta go?
I gotta go in about 10 after, I gotta go.
No.
So,
This is your meeting, guys, so this is for your time.
Well, it just seems like there's a few areas that we can wiggle in. That's my opinion, you know, and I, at least that we've come up with tonight.
It's a working document, and you guys have worked it to death.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, if we're looking to save $8,990 we can do it. I mean, it's at what point do we rob Peter to pay Paul? And we're taking from one department that, you know, is already whittled to essentially one that potentially is, in my opinion, is wasteful spending. So, again, we're not gonna make that decision tonight. We're gonna look at this document tomorrow again, we're gonna look at it Thursday again, prior to that meeting. And, you know, I'm gonna come with recommendations again. It's just,
So hopefully at that point, it's more than, it might revert back from cutting the budget in that area to balancing the budget with revenues.
correct. I mean, are we gonna balance the budget? Absolutely. But it's, essentially, we're making assumptions on roll. You know, that could blow up in our face. We could have we don't know what to expect here in the next 2 months yet. I mean, we could have snow galore, and then we're over budget on public works. We could have ice and water where we're paying county to come in and salt. We're already over in those departments. We're up on expenditures, however, we might see a downtick in utilities because we budgeted for utilities and we have a new LED system. So there's pros and cons to everything, obviously. So it's just, it's a static document. It's always changing, unfortunately, you know. For us to set a date and then be transparent, and this is where we gotta kinda draw a line. We've kind of forecasted what we thought was appropriate.
But there's bits and pieces that we still need to talk about. And then I
Absolutely.
think that's
Yep.
where,
Yep.
I think we're kind of right now stuck.
That's fine, and I think a lot of those questions are gonna be answered in the closed session, which will allow us to then make motions in the general session of the village board meeting, which we have. We'll set the agenda, so any actions that we need to take out of the closed session, we can make in the village. So we'll amend that tomorrow, and we'll post it.
But then going along with like Peter's suggestion of like a smaller group or something too, can that be in the agenda that that's an option too, that, because if it's not on the agenda, we can't take action. I guess I would rather remove an item from the agenda on the spot versus not be able to do something because it's not on the agenda. That gives us still the option to do something. Gives us more options than one.
I believe on the agenda, there's already action for the court, municipal court, already on the agenda.
And then that would just, that could, Peter's not here, so I guess I don't want to speak for him, but we talked about this smaller group.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
and
that could be one
yeah.
of a potential action is what I'm getting at.
Absolutely.
Okay. I just don't want to eliminate that
No,
option.
no, there isn't and there is I believe the last item that we added to the agenda was any actions from the committee of whole in regards to municipal court. So that is on the agenda that was posted and presented to you,
Yeah,
so.
Okay. I just haven't had a chance to read it yet, so.
If you covered this already, I apologize. The planning and mapping, could somebody explain that to me under conservation development?
We are up
It went
for,
from 2,500 to 9,500?
yep, we are up for, amendment, with the central regional planning. We have to do some of our comprehensive planning, initial outlay for that, which we don't do in-house, we actually contract services for that. And Carl, you have another one that,
The park plan has to be
Oh, I'm sorry.
updated.
park plan.
566.
And there's also the potential for jurisdictional transfer and working with the, now the highway's back on track. We have to have some money in there for that too. It's, but most of it's for comprehensive and park plans, whether,
Okay,
We need the park plans to get grants through the
Yeah.
state.
okay.
it expires and
Yeah, unfortunately, We've
It's-
moved from the 2035 planning to the 2040 planning now, so that's a lot of what, they're in that 20-year cycle now where we're pushing out.
And then the community promotion. Again, I'm just asking questions on that.
What number are you on there?
Right
Yeah.
below that,
right
right
below
below
that.
planning and mapping. community.
56, 710.
increase.
It costs a lot to mail out our quarterly or biannual newsletter,
And we're required
semi-annual.
by law to do that one, or is that,
No, we're required by the board, because we tried going electronic and then the board got,
That was a senior kind of activities promotion.
the Village Voice?
The
Are
Village
you- Or are you
Voice.
talking
The
about
Village
the
Voice, yeah.
reports?
Yep, yep.
Village Voice is
The
pricey.
uptick is $3,600 in the newsletter supply.
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about like the water utility
No,
reports.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Well, and just a,
requirement too.
just a thought,
We did
maybe
that.
maybe, since, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the senior activities maybe could fund some of that. Because it's, a lot of the people that were requesting it were seniors, and we advocated for that, or we could pay
You know, if they-
half of the increase or something,
If they do, they do, but there's no guarantee. I mean, you know, we're making a budget on hopes and wishes. I'm not complaining, but they may or may not. I mean, if they had voted on it and agreed to give the village $300, that'd be fine, but,
we could bring it up, I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that we
no,
could talk about.
it's a good idea. It's just, well, for now, let's leave the 36, because that's how much it's gonna take. The only thing we would change would be the revenue side. We would put some revenue in there from the seniors.
Projected revenue, potential projected
And
revenue.
that would reduce the gap some. But I don't think I'd change the 36, because that's a static cost.
Unfortunately, we base our revenues on previous, and there's never been a previous revenue, so we can't expect it to come in. Nathan, do you have a copy of this, what you gave me today?
Yeah, I've got a few.
I'll give it to Jim on his way out.
Okay.
So, Thursday, no public works, no public safety, we'll reschedule public safety for next week. Tentatively, I'm gonna probably suggest Thursday, but,
6 o'clock will be a regular board meeting called to order. We'll go through the initial part.
We'll
The
go-
first
we'll go,
line of
yeah.
new items will be a closed session to
Closed
discuss
okay,
wage and benefit, and then anything else that we added to the agenda tonight.
okay.
And you all have, I'll produce more copies of the wage and benefit report, so we have them for that night. It'll be hard copies, it'll be easier to look at rather than, it'll be a one-page back and forth, so.
Are there any other questions, or are we ready to adjourn?
I think, thanks for the staff for working on the budget.
Yes.
I know it's a grind.
Thank you for critiquing it.
Help me fall asleep.
Do we have a motion then to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.